Last week, I had back to back conversations with three different women, all of them over 50, all former educators or about to be former educators, all on the edge of wanting to do something new. So even though they are eligible for retirement, that's not what they want to do. They actually want to transition into some kind of new career. And that's where I entered their stories because I do free strategy calls with folks all the time who are trying to figure out what is going to be the next best move if they're trying to make a career move and they're over 40 or over 50 and they don't quite know what is the best direction or where they should focus all of their energy. So these conversations happen all the time. But what struck me was with these women, all educators, all eligible for retirement, they kind of had slightly different stories, but everything about the stories kind of took the same shape. It was in those conversations, and it happens all the time, where although I'm trying to learn more about them, the question inevitably turns towards me. And they all at some point would ask, what made you start doing this work? And every time someone asks me that question, which is quite often, I have to wrestle with, am I going to give them the bold, girl power, inspirational answer, or am I going to tell them the truth? Well, today I'm going to give you the real answer. Welcome to the Melanated Midlife. My name is Dr. Akila Willery, and this is a channel for midlife women who are considering making some kind of big transition, mostly with their career. And this usually happens after they've been doing one particular thing for a very long time, and they looked up one day and all of a sudden the job market changed. And if you're trying to figure out what is going to be your next best move, then I invite you to stick around and subscribe because I'm probably going to have some really great tips that'll help you. So that brings me to the story that I want to tell you this week, where the women that I was speaking with, like I said, one thing or a couple of things that they all had in common, they were all longtime educators. They were all over 50. They all are eligible for retirement. And they had given decades of their life and energy to their respective K-12 school districts. And they were, the story is very similar. They played by the rules. They made sure that they always showed up, stayed loyal, and kept their heads down to do the good work. And quite frankly, like most educators, they put the students, they put other people, they put the greater organization first and put themselves somewhere way down the list of things to take care of. And I mean, that's the norm. I mean, I was that person. So this is something that I recognize is just a part of the culture. But like I said before, somewhere along the way, they each looked up and realized that decades had passed and the institutions that they'd sacrificed so much of themselves and their lives for, again, kudos to them because I was that same person and I get it. It is good work. It is worthy, valuable work. But at the same time, when they get to that age of wanting to retire, or excuse me, being eligible for retirement, they decide they don't want it. And that's okay because that's where I step in. And somewhere, in the conversations where I'm getting to know them, they feel this pull. And once I start giving them tools, once I start giving them tips, this is what you can do. This is how you can maybe strategize for yourself. They're just like, wow, how do you get into this work? What is it that inspired you to start helping people in these situations? And at the same time, they feel this undeniable pull to wanna do something else, and I totally get it. That's why I'm here. That's the work and the support that I wanna give them. So, you don't have to figure out what's next all by yourself. As a matter of fact, I would recommend that you don't. And if you're watching this and, any of this is sounding like, "Okay, you got my attention because I'm in the same situation," feel free to drop a comment. See if there might be a question that I can quickly answer for you, or maybe there's some place where you're a little bit stuck, and you and I can also get on a one-to-one call and figure out what's gonna be your next best move. But back to these ladies' story, one thing that kind of draws them in once they hear the way I can support them. And they're deciding in these conversations if they want to hire me as their coach, their career coach. And it gets to a point where they're just like, how did you get into this? What is it that inspires you, talking about me, to do this kind of work, to help so many midlife women make these transitions and support them as they are trying to figure out the next phase of their career? And I tell you, my first instinct is to want to reach for something really inspiring and do all the girl power, rah rah moment, but that just isn't the truth. The truth is actually regret, not a calling, not a passion project, regret. And you're probably wondering, whoa, okay, what a downer. What is she talking about? Let me back up and clue you in on some of the things that I went through to get to this state of mind. And I want to be completely honest with you because yes, I enjoy the work that I do. I absolutely get out of bed every day just really driven to help other women that are making these types of transitions, because when I was in that situation over and over again throughout my early career, I was faced with choices. Some of them were very tough choices where, you'd be at that, as they say, the inevitable fork in the road. And there was the unknown path, the one that didn't have any guarantees, where you were really taking a chance. And then there were the safer paths where the steps were already laid out. People had already followed that route. It was no risk involved. I almost always chose the safer option. And that doesn't necessarily mean that the safer option gave me the outcomes that I hoped for, because the safer option I thought was protecting me. The safer options I always assumed would guarantee a positive result. It was rare that that actually came true. So there were times when I could have stood up for myself and I chose silence to keep the peace. There were times when I probably made myself a lot smaller so that someone else could shine and take the spotlight. Or there were other times which, ooh, this is painful to admit, where I was so desperate to be liked that I simply went along to get along. And again, at my big girl age right now, it's hard to admit these things. It's embarrassing to admit these things. But these were the patterns that I fell into over and over again, because choosing the easy road, like I said, I thought that equaled protection. I thought this was going to keep me insulated from harm, from pain, from heartbreak, and that almost never was the case. The safety that I thought I was creating for myself, that safety bubble, was a complete illusion. And all these years later, the regret is what I feel most when I look back on all the opportunities that came and went, and I chose the easier, safer, proven option instead of the one that I knew was truly calling to me. The one where I would have had to really bet on myself, the one where I really would have had to speak up and fight for what I knew I was capable of. And over again, I shied away from that. And I used that pain of choices and paths, like they say, the road not taken, when I sit across from other women that are also at that same threshold, the ones that are still sitting at that road where it is diverging into two paths, and they know what they want to do. They know that taking that unknown path, taking the chance, taking the scarier option is probably what is really going to be best for them. And instead of shying away from it, I grab them by the hand and say, okay, if you're choosing to take this path, I will go on that journey with you. I will let you know all of the things and guide you through all of the steps that I wish somebody had done for me. And it doesn't mean that I didn't have support. It doesn't mean that I didn't have a very loving network and supportive family all the time. But ultimately, you are making decisions for yourself, and you've got to understand what is true, what is best, and what is ultimately going to give you the outcome that you know you are deserving of. Here's what I know about the women that I work with, and this is almost true for every single one of them. They don't end up with me. They don't come to me. They don't find me and my services because they've made bad decisions in the past. Actually, it's completely the opposite. They have made all of the safe decisions. They have been the good girl rule followers, as you've heard me say that about myself before, where I was so much of a good girl rule follower that I stayed in that comfort zone. I mean, so solidly in that safe comfort zone that I not only did I know where the boundaries were, I built brick walls around those boundaries to make sure that I did not deviate from whatever the safe path was. When I talk to these women and after years and decades of following the rules, they suddenly feel like things aren't working for them anymore. That staying safe ultimately wasn't satisfying. That choosing the road that was already paved by someone else, or maybe a road that they had already been down 10 times before, it just did not suit them for the person that they are right now. And the women are all brilliant. They are all high achievers. They are not shy about hard work and perseverance. They have been through some things. And they probably have spent years at the same institution doing the work, not complaining, keeping their head down, and staying loyal, assuming that other people, the decision makers, their supervisors, the ones that actually hold the purse in the organization, the assumption is that if I stay loyal, continue to do the work, and just not complain, that I will one day be rewarded for that. And that's not the case ever. When I sit across from these women and I hear their story, I see myself. I see the version of me that desperately needed someone to tell them the truth, that desperately needed someone to say what I needed to hear so I didn't waste another year just playing it safe. This is what I bring into every single coaching session. It is the unfiltered guidance that I wish someone had given me when I sat at that threshold trying to decide what's going to be my next best move. Not the polished version, not the diplomatic version, the real version, the one that is not going to be there to make you feel good about staying stuck. I'm here to help you move. So if you're stuck and you want to move, then I am the person that you need sitting next to you. I am the person that you need to hold hands with as you make this journey, because the whole point is that you're moving out of that safe comfort zone and you're moving into the scarier parts so that you can discover exactly what you're capable of. And I tell you, a lot of people find me by resumes. And let me explain, because when we, at least at our big girl age, and I'm talking about the over 40 crowd, the over 50 crowd, we assume that the one thing we need to do when we're ready to make some type of job transition is simply update our resume. So when folks come to me, that is what they're asking for a lot of times. They're like, can you update my resume? Yeah, I can do it. I've updated many, many, many resumes, and to a damn good job, by the way. But this work is not about simply rewriting your resume. It is about helping you see your value clearly enough so that you can put it into words, so that you can articulate it across a table in a high stakes conversation. And those high stakes conversations, like I say, I define those as any time that you are negotiating and there is money on the other side of that outcome. So when you come to me, you are learning to speak about your experience in ways that make you completely undeniable in any room. It's about taking the brave choice instead of just making the safe one. And you're doing this with someone in your corner, me, that has already walked down that road. The women that I coach, they are not starting over. They are starting from experience. They are starting from everything that has already built them up to that point. So again, I'm working with mature ladies. So this is not, I'm not talking about the girls that are fresh out of college, the ones that are just starting out on their career journey. I'm talking about those of us that have been around for a while. I'm talking about those of us that have had decades doing something, that have built up skills that we don't realize are transferable, that we've developed a large, expansive network that we just don't know how to leverage yet. And when you work with me, I teach you how to use all of those things. You don't feel icky doing it. You don't feel like you're constantly begging for favors. You feel powerful. You understand your value. You know how to articulate it when those high stakes moments come around. And the reason I can help you do this is because I spent so many years learning what happens when you don't. So if you're watching this episode right now and you are quietly nodding and agreeing with everything that I'm saying, I mean, that means that this is for you. This message was meant to find you. I mean, you didn't find any of this by accident. You probably are going to all the search engines, going to Google, and you are typing in certain things where you're trying to figure out, how do you make this big shift? How do you make the next best move? And I'm telling you that, number one, you don't have to do it alone. This is what I do. And like I said, I've had a lot of years of doing it wrong. I have a lot of battle scars. Something in you is ready. And the question is whether or not you're going to continue watching from the sidelines or if you're actually going to do something about it. I actually have a free workshop where I teach you some strategies about how to use your network to start finding out where the opportunities are. And if you're interested in attending that, just go to the link in the description and I will definitely love for you to RSVP that you're going to come and take a look at that. And even if you don't attend the workshop, I do have free resources that are available at my website. And it is there for when you are ready to talk. It is when you are ready to make a move. I'm not interested in talking to you or convincing you about what's going to be the best time, because if you're watching this, the best time is now. If the question is in your mind, then you need answers. If you're thinking it might be time for me to make a move, you are absolutely correct, because every day that passes, you're getting further and further behind and you're going to the back of the line. That's not what I want for you, honey. I want to make sure that you are poised, you are ready, you have done all the preparation so that when you find that opportunity, you don't have to sweat about what I need to get done. You will already be ready to take an action and make the decision that is best for you right now. So whether you come to one of my workshops or if you look at some of my free resources on my website, either way, I hope you find what you need. I would love to be able to talk to you. Maybe you need a coach, and I would love to find out if it's possible for me to work with you as your coach. But either way, baby, you are here. I will make sure that you can get what you need. And if you already know that you need to talk, then hey, let's schedule a call. Just like the ladies that I talked about at the beginning of this episode, you can get on my calendar. There is a link in the description, and we can find a time that's going to be convenient for you. And just like with them, 30 minutes on a call, and you can let me know what's going on, what you've already tried, maybe where you're stuck. And I would like to be able to help you find what your next best move is going to be. And if you decide that you need a coach on this career transition journey, then I might be the person for you. But either way, I am glad you're here. Like I said, you didn't find this episode by accident. So I hope that I was able to help you at least get into a little bit of action. But if you need a better push, if you need more hand holding, then take a look at my resources, get on my calendar, and maybe we can talk and find out which direction is best for you. So thank you for tuning in, and I hope to see you in the next episode.